Good morning, good morning, good morning. Ooh, it's showing a lot. There we go. Much better. Much better. Good morning, good morning, good morning. Welcome to the early edition. Got a full day today, full schedule today, so I have to pull out the workings of the show early today. I normally don't get on till probably noonish or sometimes after 3. But anyway, welcome to Mommy's Pocketbook, episode 35. Sad news. There are only 33 records left, so I've split them into 11s instead of 10, so you get a bonus song. And there's 2 more episodes after this one, so, but don't fear. If you're catching me live on Twitch, and you find that those videos aren't available, you can always review and go back and check out all the episodes on YouTube at Kane Dizzle. So there's always that. And stay tuned to the Twitch channel, of course, to see what other programming or DJ sets will pop up on there. Without further ado, let's get into our 10 records that we pulled out of Mommy's Pocketbook. The show was called that because we are getting kind of a inside glance into what youth and young adults of the 60s, 70s, and 80s were into as far as like music was concerned, or at least through the eyes of my mother, that this is her pocketbook, her figurative pocketbook, and these are literally her records. So her the records that were in her possession. So without further ado, we're going to take 11 of them because we only have 22 left after that. 11 next week and 11 the week after that. And we're going to start checking them out, seeing what's going on, literally. And thank you for tuning in, as usual. I am your host, Zombie. I hope you can hear me. I feel like I'm talking really low today, but maybe because it's early. And consciously, unlike my upstairs neighbor, I'm really conscious about making noise during times when it's unnecessary or unpolite. So anyway, let's start it off with the Futures. Have you heard of the Futures? Not Future, but the Futures. It was a Philly soul quintet featuring Frank Washington, Kenny Crew, that's a cool name, James King, John King, and Henry McGilbert, who it was said that they kind of emulated the Temptations. Their first single was released through Amjo Records in 1970, and it was called Breaking Up, built with Our Thing. And at the time, the lead was a guy named Richard Wright, who unfortunately passed away. And of course, they had various other members between then. But it was that particular song was kind of a moderate hit for them, and it was ended up being released again on Avalanche Records in 1971. Then came, hey, who's this? Soul Taker 73. Good morning. Then came the Gamble and Huff single, which you can see this album is released on Gamble Records. Showing it to you just in case you want to see what it looks like. This was released on Gamble's first record label. They had 2 before they got Philadelphia International, Gamble and Neptune. And this was the first one. Gamble and Huff single that we're about to hear called Love Is Here. At first, it only got airplay in a few spots or cities, and then the Dramatics ended up doing a cover of that particular song on their 10 and a Half album. So, when Gamble Records ended, instead of migrating to Philadelphia International Records, they moved to Buddha, and they released the Way of the Woman LP, built with Greater Woman, and that was in January 74, and also, it was the beginning of several flops, so they probably should have stayed up in Philly with that Philly sound machine behind them. But anyway, let's get into Love Is Here by The Futures. Of course, it is a Huff production, not a Gamble and Huff, but a Huff production no less. Both songs co-written by Leon Huff. This one is a particular Gamble and Huff all together, and the one on the other side is Leon Huff with Bobby Bennett, who's a blues guitarist. What's going on? Pre-Philly International. Didn't have any 40. Yeah, that's what's up. I'm sorry, the words are so small I can't see it. Oh yeah, thank you. 5 Elements of Hip Hop. Got this from Detroit, Allied Media. Out at the Allied Media Convention. Many years ago. I forget the group that promotes this shirt, but I always have to look it up when people ask me about it. But without further ado, let's get into the futures. Love is Here, a Gamblin' Huff production. Again, this is a Gamblin' Huff production right here. If you don't know anything about Gamblin' Huff, which I'm sure you do, legendary soul, funk, and disco producers, songwriters, creators, and owners of the Philadelphia soul sound and the Philadelphia soul music scene. They developed and created that sound. They've done over 175 platinum and gold records together. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame inductees in 2008. So, I mean, hello. Had some good writers behind them right here for this particular song. After Gamble record label folded, they ended up leaving and going to Buddha, and that started like a series of several flops. They did end up reuniting with Gamble and Huff back in '78, but it was after the early heydays of Philadelphia International. So their first single was not really a chart topper either, but their biggest success was kind of like an energetic dance song called Party Time Man, and it was their most successful single, even though it wasn't even really a banger. That there was The Futures, our first out of 11. This time we're getting a bonus because there are only 33 records left to peruse, so that means there are 2 more shows after this, in which we will have 11 at each one of them. So today, next week, and the week after, and then you stay tuned here for what other program, the next programming that we're going to do. It may revolve around records, it might revolve around tapes. Not really sure yet. But we're getting a bonus today of 11 records instead of 10. Let's move it on. Move it on up to the next one, Stained. And a group that has to have been very popular with my mom's crew and herself because it is from The Moments. And The Moments have been on several shows. I feel like I might have played a Moment song last week also. But just a reminder, The Moments are a R&B vocal group from Hackensack, New Jersey. They have DC roots in them, so shout out to the home team. You always got to give it up for the home team. Reason being is they started in the mid-'60s and were initially signed by Hog Records while they were at Howard University, HU, where they were discovered by the Mizell brothers, Larry and Fonse, along with Freddie Perrin, okay? And later on, Ed Townsend ended up checking them out and getting them signed to Stang Records, which is what this album is pressed on right here, if you can see that. Let me get my fingers out of the way. Yes, New Jersey, so that's absolutely correct. Soul Taker 73. So, they immediately, once they got signed to Stang, hit the charts with Not on the Outside, which only went 57 pop, but that's not too bad. But it was number 13 R&B. Of course, they went through several lineup changes. So while the original was Harriet Ray, Al Goodman, Billy Brown, Mark Green, Richard Horsley, also included at a time Johnny Morgan and Johnny Moore. Eventually, by the 1970s, they evolved into the group known as Ray, Goodman, and Brown. So you probably might be familiar with that name too, as movers and shakers in the industry. Let's get into the A side. It's called Lovely the Way She Loves. It is a Goodman and Brown and also Sylvia Robinson production. And co-written by Sylvia Robinson. Sylvia Robinson, the owner of Sing Records, along with her husband. And also, you know Sylvia Robinson from that good old Sugar Hill Gang fame. Let's get into it. Lovely the Way She Loves. The Moments.
In her arms, I can feel the magic of her charm. When she kisses me, oh, so tenderly, next thing on her arm is her only need. It's such a lovely way she loves. It's such a lovely way.
changed their names, they've changed the way they their music publishing because their record label executives and things own. Case in point, how Hall and Dozier Holland had to change their publishing name after they left Motown, so the Motown would further keep them from getting the rights to their royalties. So yes, that does happen, and it does have a very 60s vibe to it. Very, very much so. It's really nice though. The moments right here. So yeah, Soul Taker 73 for those of you who don't see the message. He's talking about how they had to change their name because Sylvia Robinson owned the rights to their name, The Moments.
We sat and talked about how we had met. And when the autumn leaves began to fall, I remembered how we sat and reminisced it all. And when the wintry winds began to blow, I held him close. And that made me know. That made me know. That made me know. Ooh.
Yes, The Moments. Now, they were still The Moments at this time, so they hadn't yet made that separation from their record executive. Let's get to the B-side. It's called I've Got to Keep On Loving You. Okay, it is also co-written by Sylvia Robinson. She did a lot of writing for them, along with Arnold Ramsey. And again, it is The Moments. Don't forget you know them for one of the best songs I know. It's Love on a Two-Way Street, which was co-written and produced by Sylvia Robinson in 1970. It was the number 3 hit for them and number 1 on the R&B charts for 5 weeks. Again, we listen to I've Got to Keep On Loving You by The Moments.
Gets a little bit stronger, and then I look into your eyes and watch your eyes. You are the one girl for me, and I've gotta keep on loving you. I've gotta keep on loving you. Hour by hour, I'm locked up in this world of tenderness. And if I don't live right, I'll be left alone in loneliness. But when I look into your eyes, I finally realize you are the one girl for me, and I've gotta keep on loving you. I've gotta keep on loving you. La 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 la.
I like this right here. Again, I was talking about one of their major hits, Love on a Two-Way Street, co-written by Sylvia Robinson and produced by Sylvia Robinson. It's one of the best songs that I know of them. But of course, as 1970, I was not out in the streets. I know it best from the cover that was done by another DC Touch, Stacey Lattisaw.
I've gotta keep on loving you. I've gotta keep on loving you.
Yes, you also know them from Sexy Mama, a 1974 hit that gave them a number 17. And Special Lady as Ray Goodman and Brown, which came out in 1980. Well, peaked on the charts at number 5 in 1980. Again, this was on Stang Records, owned by Sylvia Robinson and Joe Robinson, her husband, out of New Jersey, Inglewood to be exact, operated as a division of their all-platinum recording company until the mid-'70s. And then, of course, after that, there became all-platinum, not just all-platinum, but Sugar Hill Records, which was built up after the success of the Sugar Hill Gang. Let's get into our number 3. It's coming from, look at that, The 3 Degrees. That was not planned, trust. R&B trio from Philly was Fayette Pinckney. Okay. The most of the group was the Fayette Pinckney, Shirley Ferguson, and Valerie Holiday. However, the original lineup was much different and wasn't necessary. And it was Fayette Pinckney was always there, but it was Shirley Porter and Linda Turner at first. They were discovered by producer, songwriter Richard Barrett, who was a key force behind 1950s groups The Chantels, Little Anthony and the Imperials, Frankie Lyman and the Teenagers, and his own group, the Valentines. As the original lineup, Barrett recorded their first single called G Baby, I'm Sorry, in 1973. Linda Turner and Shirley Porter left the group and were replaced by Helen Scott and Janet Jones. So at the time, Barrett was also managing and producing Sheila Ferguson, who was a high school friend of Helen Scott. So he was able to get deals for both the group and for Ferguson with Swan Records. And there, but by 1966, Helen Scott had left the group, in those days to get married and become a housewife. She's like, I don't have time for you singing gals. Anyway, Sheila Ferguson ended up taking her place in the group. So that's how she became less so a single artist and a part of the group. Sheila Ferguson, sang background vocals, though, on all of the 3 Degrees Swan recordings, and the 3 Degrees also sang background vocals on her solo Swan recordings. Yada, yada, yada. 1967, Valerie Holiday joined the group because Janet Jones left, and that's when they became the Fayette Pinckney, Shirley Ferguson, Valerie Holiday incarnation of the 3 Degrees. That sounded like a whole bunch. Let's get into the A side, and then I'll get back into a little bit more information about those gals. It is a hit for them. Spent 13 weeks on the chart. 13 weeks on the chart, and then peaked at number 2 for 1 week. Number 1 on the adult contemporary chart. It's called When Will I See You Again? Kenny Gamble, Leon Huff.
Share precious moments. Will I have to wait forever? Will I have to suffer and cry? When will I see you again? When will our hearts be together? Are we in love? Or just friends? Is this my beginning? Or is this the end? When will I see you again?
Yes. So, on that incarnation for the next 4 years after they became the Pinckney, Ferguson, Holiday trio of the 3 Degrees, They released a whole bunch of singles. In 1970, they were on Roulette Records. The 3 Degrees of they scored their first national chart hit with the remake of the Chantel song "Maybe," which became a number 4 R&B song for them in the summer of 1970. Their follow-up was "I Do Take You," which peaked at number 7 on the R&B charts, and that's what got them some short deals with Warner Brothers, Metro Media, and Gamble and Huff's Neptune record label. And they even, they were pretty quite hot then. They even appeared in the classic movie, The French Connection, you know, the Gene Hackman movie. And they toured with Engelbert Humperdinck. I always say Engelbert Humperdinck. And then in 73, that's when Barrett was able to ink them a deal with Philadelphia International Records that brought us this. Yes. And then the most awesome and well, it's not the most awesome. I think it's the most awesome thing that came up with the 3 Degrees that brings them into the fold of the youth of the 90s, maybe, at least, is the fact that, I don't know, a little dance show called Soul Train had approached Philadelphia International. This is called Year of Decision. It's the B-side of that. Also a Kenny Gamble and Leon Huff production. But a little TV show, you know, it got really popular. A little dance show called Soul Train had approached Philadelphia International saying that they wanted them to come up with a theme for the show. And yes, the Soul Train. Yes, that is the 3 Degrees singing those vocals on the Sound of Philadelphia Soul Train theme. It was such a good sounding song and gained so much popularity from the public that they demanded that it be released as a single. It ended up going gold at number 1 on the R&B charts and holding the pop charts at number 1 for 2 weeks. So it was their only other charting single. Their only other charting single on Philadelphia International Records was "Take Good Care of Yourself," which went 64 in the summer of '78 on the R&B charts.
Better make sure that you leave the bad stuff alone. Whatever you wanna do, thinking of the good and perfect choice is up to you. Oh, we need everyone to succeed, everybody to succeed, everybody. Spinning the gold and all they come on and join the beat. Join the beat. Come on to make your decision. We gotta get it together. Come on to open up your mind. Yes, this is the year. Come on to make your decision. We gotta get it together. Come on to open up your mind. Open up your mind. Yes, this is the year. Come on to make your decision. We gotta get it together. Come on to open up your mind. Open up your mind. Yes, this is the year.
Yes, that's the 3 Degrees, the same vocals that gave you "Let's Get It On, It's Time to Get Down" for that Soul Train theme. This was on Philadelphia International Records, of course, also the same record deal founded by Kenneth Gamble and Leon Huff in 1971. At the time, it was being distributed by CBS, which was held by the Clive Davis at that time. After closing Gamble, Gamble, this is the record label that was started after that, but once this one closed, they ended up regrouping as the Sound of Philadelphia. Furthermore, if you need to find any more pressings and releases of this music, you're going to have to holler at the Big Daddy Universal, Sony, because that is where those rights rely now Sony Music Sony Music Entertainment. Why is everything falling? It's too early. That's what it is. I don't have time for it. I'm gonna tell you that much. All this falling and whatnot. There we go. There we go. Okay. I don't know why they're giving me problems today. Things are giving me problems. Now this one is pretty old and pretty ashy, but we're gonna hope for the best. It is a Brenda and the Tabulations, which you can tell Brenda and the Tabulations is pretty popular with my mom because I probably played at least 3 Brenda and the Tabulations EPs. So, well, here's another one. I'm looking at her nicknames. She had a lot of nicknames like me. Rochelle, or aliases. Rochelle is the one on here. This one has a chip in it. I don't know if you can see that. I'm holding it against the white of the wall. But, fortunately, the music don't start right there. So, we'll be able to bypass that little snafu. Yeah, I mean, if it plays, it's fine. I'm not that deep. It doesn't go that deep for me where I need it to have to be freshly minted. So this is Brenda and the Tabulations. Let me give you a little bit of background about those gals again. And I'm looking at my records. Brenda and the Tabulation is not supposed to be next. But it is what we're going with. One second. It's supposed to be Ruby Winters, but we're going to go with Brenda and the Tabulations since we already talked them up. Yeah, you know, it happens, you know. I'm not, long as it's not on the part where the music actually starts. Okay, so another little crack right here. But we're going to try it out, you know. I mean, again, these records weren't kept in proper storage, so things happen. Soul group Brenda and the Tabulations were a soul group from Philly formed in 1966, originally featuring Brenda Payton, Eddie Jackson, Jerry Jones, Maurice Coates. A guy named Bernard Murphy joined in 1968. Then around 1970 they ended up becoming a trio. Look, I just was talking about this. Everything is falling and it's like getting on my nerves. So, and then around 1970, it ended up becoming a trio featuring just Brenda Payton, Pat Mercer, and Deborah Martin. Their biggest hit was Dry Your Eyes from 1967, which was a number 20 pop hit for them, as well as simultaneously being number 8 on the R&B charts. They were recording with Dion Records, which is where this is released. I don't know if you can see that. There's a lot of writing on that, but try to hold it to light for you. Dion Records till 1969. Then after that, they were on Top and Bottom Records from 1970 to 73. And they also did some stints on Epic and Chocolate City. But let's get into their biggest hit, Dry Your Eyes, right here. 1967 is number 20 on the pop charts. And like I said, number 8 on the R&B charts. This is Brenda and the Tabulations. Yeah, you're right. Our parents didn't take it. Well, some of them did. But sometimes. Not so much.
I'm so sorry that mother's gotta go now. I'm so sorry.
it is amazing how like some of these records have been able to stand the test of time, and it is a true testament to the actual wax records themselves, because some of them have been able to withstand a lot of beatings and still play. Like I said, this one has a chip in it and it's quite ashy, but for the most part, with a little bit of static, it plays pretty well. So yeah, this is from 1967. Like I said, number 20 on the pop charts, 8 in the R&B charts. Of course, 1971 came and they hit with the super hit "Right on the Tip of My Tongue," which went number 10 R&B. And that same year, another song hit on the R&B charts at number 14 called "A Part of You." Let's get on to the B side. It's called "The Wash." Again, this is Brenda and the Tabulations. What's the tabulation? What's the there?
Come on, everybody, together around. We got a new sound that we putting down. It's not the monkey, it's not the jerk. This is a dance that'll make you work. It's all a wash. One more people do the wash. Now, people do the wash. Everybody do the wash. Now, people do the wash. One more people run upstairs as fast as you can. Go to the bathroom, don't grab no.
Right, so take the 73 when it has that little scruffiness to the sound, it's a little bit of seasoning. I like that. Sometimes I like to snap, crackle, and pop, lets me know it was real.
Everybody do the wash.
So, I told you about the hits that they did score after 67's "Dry Your Eyes," "Right on the Tip of My Tongue" in 71, and then also "A Part of Me," "A Part of You." They did manage to score some sporadic success in the disco scene. You see they got a little danciness to them. In the late 70s with the LP "I Keep Coming Back for More," they had a single called "Let's Go All the Way Down," which got some international and club interest, so...
Now, people rub a little bit here, a little bit there. Come on, people, watch everywhere. Go outside and look around. And if the doors are closed, then you go downtown. The people are looking mighty strange, but they doing the dance everywhere they gonna watch. Come on, people do the wash. Now, people do
The Wash is pretty high right there. I might put that on and bust a move a little later. Might put that, run that again. So this was released on Dion Records in 1960. That was a subsidiary label of Jamie Records, which was one of Alan Sussel's record labels, named after his eldest daughter. It was known for Dwayne Eddy hits during the late 50s and 60s. Now, a little bit of breakdown about Dwayne Eddy Records is that they were, this particular firm, Dion, was one of the first to record in stereo with the Dwayne Eddy material, which first appeared in 1958. Anyway, the parent company of Dion Records, Jamie, was founded in 1956. Their Philly sister label, Guidon, was operating since 54, and in the 60s, that's when they branched out with other music, with subsidiaries like Dion for that good old R&B soul type thing. Well, soul back then. Anyway, that was Brenda and the Tabulations with The Wash. I like The Wash. I might have to put that on and get my boogie on later on. Let's get to our number 5, which is by Ruby Winters. If you don't know her, she is a soul singer from Kentucky, although raised in Cincinnati, Ohio. She never really got like super wide pop audience success beyond her region, but she managed to record several singles for some small labels throughout the 60s and 70s. But this one is on Polydor. Polydor is nothing to slouch at, so, she wasn't always on just the tiny record labels. Her first chart hit came in 1967, and it was a duet with Johnny Thunder. If you don't know who Johnny Thunder is, if you've heard "Here We Go Loop-de-loo, here we go loop-de-la," that is Johnny Thunder. And that was a remake of a Joe Stafford 1974 single called "Make Love to Me." That peaked at number 13 on the R&B charts. She ended up having another top 20 hit with "I Don't Want to Cry" in 1969 for Diamond Records, and then a final top 20 single in 1967 with Guess Who. This particular song is called "I Will." It was written by Dick Glasser, who was a songwriter, record producer. And he also had a brother in the industry called Pat Shannon, who was a pop singer. Let's get into Ruby Hunter's soul singer from Kentucky with "I Will."
Just remember when you're gone, there'll be
Let's see what
some.
this is. I think I saw something. Nope, it's still there.
Just remember when you're gone, there'll be someone sad to love you
Yeah, that you keep hearing, that's a little bit of greatness on the album right there, because it's a lot of spots like extra ashy, and every time it passes over, you hear that shh. But anyway, other than that, it's a pretty nice sounding, clear singing voice. I like it.
I don't wanna say I'm gonna cry my eyes out, baby, but I will. Oh, I'm not ashamed for you to know how much I really love you so. I'm sitting on such a thrill. Just remember when you're gone, there'll be someone sad who loves you still. You will look at her and see, smiling back at you. I know you were there. You will find yourself repeating things we used to do. I know you did. I know you did. Oh, don't wonder if you wanna come back. Just come running back. Let me feel the thrill. I'm the one who told you I would love you till forever, and I will. Oh, you would look at her and see me smiling back at you. I know you will.
So I started talking about how she had a couple of hits before then on different labels and stuff. And this is on Polydor. And it said that like she didn't get that much interest on some of her Polydor, Playboy, and Millennium record label songs, but she did have several singles that lasted her, took her through the 70s, even though her most successful music was released in the 60s.
And I will.
Yeah, thanks for the link. I'm gonna have to check that out. Get some good cleaning going on these records. Let's get on over to the B side, which looks significantly better than the A side. Ruby Winter's "Something's Burning." This was written by Mac Davis. There's not much information about Mac Davis, but let's get into it and check it out. Really, really nice voice. She kind of reminds me of Donna Summer a little bit. Or Donna Summer reminds me of her. How about that? Since she did come first. Ruby Winters, "Something's Burning."
angel sleep beside me. I hear your warm rhythmic breathing. I take your hand and hold it tightly. Listen, can you not hear a young heart beating? I kiss the sleep from your eyes. Your smile is sweeter than the morning. And here it
Something about her voice almost kind of reminded me of, I don't know. I said Donna something before, and it was someone else who I was picking up, but I can't think of it. Anyway, this was released on Polydor, like I said. Polydor started out in the beginning in 1913 by German Polyphon Music Work AC. It was pretty much for manufacturing a new mechanical disc playing music box for them called Polyphone. Of course, it went through different changes with other Dutch and German companies. And in 1947, that's when Siemens and House stepped in and brought the Dutch gramophone, which was the parent over Polydor. And then they opened the U.S. branch of Polydor in 1967. And that's when they purchased the back catalog of our Godfather of Soul, James Brown. And that was and then in 71, and absorbed MGM in 72. So then, of course, you had the merger of their Polydor and their Polygram, yada, yada, yada. If you're looking for any represses, reissues of Ruby Winters, you're going to have to holler at the big dogs at Universal Music Group, because that's where they lie. That is where that permission lies today. Again, Something's Burning by Ruby Winters. Right there. That was our 5th out of our 11. We're getting a bonus one today. Usually it's 10 out of 10 records that we pull out of Mommy's Pocketbook, giving us a kind of peek into Mommy's world and finding out what was hot for the youth and young adults of the 60s, 70s, and 80s. Coming up, we got some Deep Sea Love, our number 6 out of there, coming from Skip Mahoney and the Casuals. What I find particularly funny about the Skip Mahoney and the Casuals this time is I'm not really sure on the last ones, but I think I would have noticed. I have a niche for pinpointing and noticing typos. It's this album printed for DC International Records, which there's not much information about. I'm pretty sure it doesn't exist anymore, at least not under the same name except for the address of being Bethesda, Maryland. It's printed for Skip Mahoney and the Casuals. Anyway, Skip Mahoney. Skip, his real name was Harrison Honey. But there was a film series back in the day called The Bowery Brothers, where there was a leader of the gang on that called Slip Mahoney, and that's where he got the name from. Instead of being Slip, he was Skip. And then, his last name was already Honey, so he was like, I might as well just take on the Mahoney part. And thus you had Skip Mahoney. So along with his fellow Francis Cardoza Hall, again, shout out to DC. This is a DC group. They went to Cardoza, Northwest DC. hanging out in the hallway. George Norris, James Morris, Franklin Radcliffe, and Morris Moore. His mom's funny. Morris Moore. Um, formed in 1965, and then they solidified their best known lineup with Roger Chapman, Billy Jones, and George Norris as a quartet in about 69. So they joined forces with another Cardoza alum, James Purdy, who was partially blind but also very talented. He was a multi-instrumentalist and had made a name for himself at Cardoza. He could write, he could play, and arrange songs. So they frequently would play together at clubs, and that's how they got their popularity. So they played at one called The Room. I know nobody who's my age probably had the privilege of knowing and or going to that place, but I've certainly heard stories. And the Mark IV in Northeast DC. And also they played at a place called the Carousel out in Baltimore with guitarist Otis Brown, bassist Ira Watson, and Purdy would handle keyboards and drums as needed. Over the course of 2 years, they cut 7 tracks with Robert Jose Williams at DB Sound, also a local studio back then. But when their first single was released, they were originally called just the Casuals. When their first single was released, and it came back from the printing press, for DC International, and it said Skip Mahoney and the Casuals, the fellas were like, "Oh hell no!" and so they quit. And in order to keep promoting and keep for the album, they had to have 3 new people join, and that was Tracy Reed, Jerome Rogers, and Alan Morgan, and they were there to kind of support the album, with performances and things of that nature that took them outside of DC International's reach to another record label called Abet. Anyway, let's get into Your Funny Moves, which is written by Skip Mahoney and James Purdy, who I told you was a beast and good at writing, playing, and arranging music. Skip Mahoney and the Casuals, or as the record says, Skip McHoney and the Casuals. No, it's Skip Mahoney though.
Woman, I've done all I can. I've been on my back just trying to be the right man. But nothing I do seems to please you. You know it don't. I'm at the end of my line. Woman, I'm through trying. I just can't take no more. I'm gonna walk right out that door. 'Cause I'm fed up with your nasty attitudes. And you're funny. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, yeah. I'm gonna leave you behind before you blow my mind. I don't know what's wrong with you. You don't want a man. You want a robot. Somebody you can turn off and on whenever you please. But you can't do this thing to me. You don't like the clothes I wear. You don't even like the way I comb my hair. But what more can I do? I've done every damn thing just to please you.
So I talked about how they first came out, they Of course, when they went into the booth, they were the Casuals, but of course when their first single came out for DC Internationals, when it came back from the printing press, it said Skip Mahoney and the Casuals, and so everybody quit. They had been together by that time for almost a decade, so that was kind of unfortunate. But then with the three new, Tracy Reed, Jerome Rogers, and Alan Morgan, they joined in order to support the album. Now you got to promote, you got to do appearances, you may have to tour, etc. Well, of course, this took them 2 rounds outside of DC International. They had some stints with Abet Records. The group started to fizzle out around 1978 after a management deal went south with the mob connected Joe Fontana in New York City. And then, of course, also disco started springing up, which kind of took the place of live venues, which sucks. Something's always happening. It's like displacing this good heart and soul of entertainment. But thankfully, live venues did return. It's kind of happening again with COVID, but what are you gonna do?
Your money moves, and your nasty attitudes. Good morning, I'm going out the door. I'm not gonna come back no more. I'm gonna love my baby. I'm gonna need my baby. I got to leave it.
Your Funny Moves, Skip Mahoney and the Casuals, straight out of DC. Formed when they were students at Cardozo High School in Northwest Uptown. For those who are from DC, you know what that means. This is called Struggling Man. This harmony seems kind of nice right here. I like this. Also written by Skip Mahoney and James Purdy. Both of them classmates or schoolmates from Cardozo High School.
Dream that someday will soon come true. And if you stay in my life, don't abandon me in strife, and I'll someday make you my wife. I have nothing to give. Dream that someday will soon come true, girl. If you stay in my life, don't abandon me in strife, and I'll someday make you my bride. Oh, you possess all the qualities of a dream, but so real it all seems. Please don't break my heart. I'm just a plain struggling man, trying hard as I can to make it in a world that's so cruel. I got nothing to give, but a hope and a dream that someday will soon come true, little girl. If you stay in my life, don't abandon me in time, and I'll someday make you my bride.
This is a nice groove right here. This is something you just put on and just vibe to, like literally. The vibe is all right here. Like I said, James Purdy was a multi-instrumentalist, and he was partially blind, and he was part of the band, the Casuals, as far as like the musical force behind it. The be able to write, able to arrange, and able to play the music. So, I mean, it's always good to have people like that on your team when it comes to like this whole creative business. Because it's one thing to be able to do, but be able to figure out what to do at the same time. Awesome. And of course, you gotta have the talk breakdown.
Please don't abandon my strife, because I need you. I need you so badly. I want you to be my bride. I am nothing to give, but all that someday will soon come to give my plea. If you stay in my life, don't abandon me in time, and I'll someday make you my
Skip Mahoney and the Casual, straight out of DC. Wrong hand, right-handed. With that nice, funky groove right there. That is Struggling Man. Skip Mahoney and the Casuals off of DC International Records from back in the day. Let's get into our number 7 out of our 11. Bonus one this time. We usually have 10. It's coming from Garland Green. And it's he's a soul singer born in Dunleith, Mississippi. Of course, ended up moving to Chicago when he was 16. He's one of 11 kids, the 10th one to be exact, so pretty young on the chopping block in the family. With 16, when they moved to Chicago, he worked after school, because he was still in school, and also sang with groups, or sometimes he did solo gigs on the weekends. He met his mentor at one of those gigs, and that mentor is called Argia B. Collins, while he was singing in the pool room. Now, Argia, or Collins, let's see, because I don't want to keep butchering that name, was a owner of a string of barbecue joints, and manufactured their own sauce called Mumbo Sauce. Shout out to DC, because Mumbo Sauce has long been a cultural food custom of DC, but it's been argued that it comes from Chicago, and there we have some kind of historical note about that. So maybe there was a link between Chicago and someone from Chicago bringing the sauce to DC, but it's become quite the staple. Like as a child, if you ever go to a carry out and get wings, you always, unless you have some kind of tomato ketchup based allergy or something like that, which no kid had when I was a kid, you got the Mumbo sauce on the side or on top. I liked mine all over. I like the meat to be red with sauce. But anyway, back then I did. Now I need a little bit, Just put it on the side. I put it on there myself. So anyway, Collins was impressed by Collins and paid for Green to attend Chicago Conservatory of Music. And so there, for 2 years, studying piano and voice, he also was performing at local clubs nightly. And another break came when another Collins, not related to Argia B. Collins, Mel Collins, checked them out at an amateur talent show. Now, Mel Collins was the husband of Josephine, or Joshi, Armstead, who was a songwriter who earlier co-wrote tunes with Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson, but also was one of the original Ikettes from the Ike and Tina Review. So this was the husband of Joshi Armstead, Mel Collins. Armstead loved his voice and thought he had something that the ladies would like, and so they recorded him in Detroit and released the effort on their Gamma record label. And it did so well that MCA plucked it for international distribution, placing it with their subsidiary record label Review. Then Review released 3 more singles, did so well to keep recording them, and that's when they moved them to MCA's Uni Records, which you can see is where this one is on. You see that UNI up there, Uni Records, and that's where he got his biggest hit ever, which is the one we're about to hear. It's called. Actually, here's the funny part about that. I'm gonna play the A side first. The A side is actually called "I Can't Believe You Quit Me." Again, written by Josie Armstead. And this is Garland Green. And that is definitely an old phrase right there. Where is this from? Quitting people. Anyway, I can't believe you quit me. Garland Green. We starting off real funky right here. I mean, which makes sense coming from somebody writing your music who was part of the Ike and Tina review.
You no longer want me. I still feel your warmth and tenderness against mine. They never felt to thrill me, even now they chill me. Since you told me you couldn't be tied down, you left this feeling with me. Can't believe you quit me. Can't believe you quit me. I just can't believe you quit me. I feel your arms around me. Your presence feels around me. Baby, 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 baby. Sweet tender love you gave me, I could buy my time. I can run and I can't hide from the memory in my mind. I still see you plain as day, holding out your hand, begging me to hold you, telling me not to scorn you. Now you're gone, but my love lingers on. I still feel like you're with me. Can't believe you quit me. Just can't believe you quit me. Can't believe you quit me. I feel your arms around me.
Garland Green right there. He sounded so good that somebody sent him to school to study some music. Then he sounded so good to somebody else, and he was like, I know what you did. You got what the ladies want. Come on out there. I said, I can't believe you quit me. Now, like I said, that was the A side of the release. The B side, "Jealous Kind of Fella," was Garland Green's biggest hit, coming in, peaking at number 20 on the pop charts, simultaneously number 5 in the R&B charts in 1969. "Jealous Kind of Fella," Garland Green.
I think I'd call my baby today. Hello, baby. Please don't get too mad at me because I punched that guy last night. But let me explain before you say anything. I know I was wrong, just like you said. I let my jealousy go straight to my head, and I apologize, so please don't cry. I want you to know this is one sorry guy. Love you. I'm just a jealous kind of fella. Jealous kind of fella. You see, there's another thing.
Yes, "Jealous Kind of Fella" right there. Like, the funny part is that that's the B side, and that's the biggest hit right there. Usually the hits are the ones that come on the A side. Anyway, this is written by Garland Green, Josie Armstead, Morris Dawson Jr., and Rudolph Browner. Again, a number 20 hit for him in 1969, and number 5 R&B at the same time. And a reminder, he had Hitmaker on his team, who was a soul singer, songwriter, composer, producer, actress, and also a member of the Ike and Tina Review. That is Josie Armstead. She was an original Ikeette. And from 1964 to 67, she was part of a songwriting team with Nick Ashford and Valerie Simpson. You know, Ashford and Simpson, solid as a rock. Yes. And when I was a kid, I can remember people playing this song, and I liked singing the hook. Especially this part. Yes. This was released on Uni Records, which was a subsidiary of MCA Records, operated through their Universal City Records division, of course. The label's first release appeared in January 1967, but the label was retired in 1973 in favor of just the overall MCA. That was nice right there. Garland Green. Let's get into our number 8, which is coming from The Free Movement. Ooh. Free Movement was a soul and pop sextet from LA. Not way off from the sounds of Fifth Dimension, which was also a large multi-group member soul and pop group. They were formed in 1970 by Godoy Colbert, Josephine Brown, Cheryl Conley, Jennifer Gates, Adrian Jefferson, and Claude Jefferson. Godoy Colbert was former member of several groups: the Pilgrim Travelers, the Exits, the Pharaohs, and Josephine Brown was formerly of a group called the Bells of Joy. Like I said, they were similar to the Fifth Dimension in sound, so they hit in 1971 with I Found Someone of My Own, which was a number 5 hit for them. Also a number 7 adult contemporary hit, and a number 20 R&B hit for them. By then, they had signed to Columbia Records and released their LP in January of 72 called The Harder I Try. I'm sorry, which ended up being a number 49 hit for them in R&B and number 50 on the pop charts. And their single release after that was of the same title. And the next singles were a cover of Stephen Seals' Love the One You're With, and also they had another single called Coming Home. We're about to listen to that one hit that they had in 1971. That number 5 on the pop charts, number 7 on adult contemporary, and number 20 in R&B. It's called I Found Someone of My Own, and it is the Free Movement pop and soul sextet. That means 6 grouper from LA. One second. Little snap crackle walk for you.
My woman came in, sat down by my side, with tears in her eyes. She said, I've a confession to make. And I said, woman, speak what's on your mind. She said, I found somebody new. Take your place. I said, don't feel so hard alone. I found someone of my own. Someone of my own. Know those lonely nights when you left That's the way it's gotta be. Then darling, don't you worry about me. Don't you worry about me. She said I want somebody new. Take your place. I said don't feel so all alone. I found someone of my own. I got up from the table. I reached down and wiped the tears from her face. I put out my cigarette, turned and walked away. Turned and walked away. She said I found somebody new. Take your place. I said don't feel so all alone. I found someone of my
I found someone of my own. The Free Movement right there. Like I said, that was a soul and pop sextet out of L.A. You see the similarities in Fifth Dimension types of style. I mean, in style of music, and also the fact that they have a large number of members. This was written by Frank F. Robinson. There's not very much information about that particular writer, but that they were an R&B songwriter. Frank R. Robinson is also the person who wrote the song that's on the other side, called "I Can't Convince My Heart." Again, I found someone of my own. Song you just heard was a big hit for the Free Movement, in that it peaked at number 5 in the pop charts, number 7 in the adult contemporary charts, and number 20 in the R&B charts. So 3 charts simultaneously. That's dope. This is "I Can't Convince My Heart," again by the Free Movement.
Every day I tell myself I don't want you anymore, but I can't get over the feeling that I got when I walk out the door. Baby, baby, you don't know how I really sing, but I found that I still miss you, darling, even in my dreams. No, I can't convince my heart I don't love you anymore. No, I can't convince my heart I don't love you like before. Oh, no. Wake up in the morning, first thing I do is speak the name. My mind is all confused and my heart is wrecked with pain. And I get tears in the corners of my eyes. I keep saying that I don't want you, baby, but my heart won't believe a lie. No, I can't convince my heart I don't love you anymore. No, I can't convince my heart I don't love you like before.
Dancey tune right there. I Can't Convince My Heart by the Free Movement. These were released on, I said that they were, let me start over. I said that they were on Columbia Records in the beginning. However, this was released on Decca, and Decca was a former stockbroker Edward Lewis formed Decca Record Company Limited in the United Kingdom, and that was in 1929. Then it was founded locally by Brunswick Bulk Collender and the German polyphon music. You know, there's always some polyphon or grammar or whatever involved. The U.S. branch of Decca Records was launched in 1934. Of course, after that, it was acquired by MCA in the early 60s. in 1997. Of course, that's when Seagram brought MCA and Universal over to what is now known as Universal Music Group. So if you're looking for any re-releases or reissues of that or any rights to, you're going to have to holler at the big dogs at Universal Music Group. That was the Free Movement. That was a number 8 out of our 11. Usually we do 10, but we get a bonus 11 today because there are only 33 records, where there were only 33 records left. As of after today, there will be 22, so we'll play 11 next week and 11 the week after. And then we say goodbye. At least for now, for Mommy's Pocketbook. And hopefully there will be other programming here on Twitch at Zombie to the Rhythm. Let's get into our ninth, the Ebonies, a vocal soul quartet featuring Jenny Holmes, David Beasley, James Tutton, and Clarence Vaughn, formed in 1968 in Camden, New Jersey, discovered by Mr. Leon Huff. They're famous for their kind of gripping, dramatic soul ballads and their Dale-style approach of baritone leading with an answering falsetto lead. So their hits are, one of which we're about to listen to right now, 1971's number 10 R&B song, You're the Reason Why. It's the Ebonies. Yes, baby, 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 yeah.
I feel like a king sitting high on top of the world. If my heart could sing, I'd sing a love song to you, girl. You are the reason that I feel this way. And every time I see you, so much joy.
Mega hits of the 90s and early 2s exist too, because they got these samples from here. So the Ebonies are the reason why to this day. Okay? This is a Gamble and Huff production right here, co-written and produced by both of those brothers, that team of duos. Again, You're the Reason Why, 1971, was a number 10 R&B hit for the Ebonies, and yeah, well deserved.
Come on.
Let's get into our B-side from the Ebonies. It is also a Gamble and Huff production, as well as a Carrie Gilbert, and that Carrie Gilbert is also one of the writers on this particular song. This one is called Sexy
I said
Ways.
I love your sexy ways.
Carrie Gilbert, along with the Gamble and Huff team. Carrie Gilbert was a friend of Leon Huff before Leon grew up with the success of Philadelphia International Records. He also wrote for a lot of other Philadelphia International Records artists, and including like some of his more notable songs that he co-wrote, "Don't Leave Me This Way" and "Me and Mrs. Jones." Yes, that's one of those co-written by Carrie Gilbert pieces right there. You're the Reason Why we heard before, number 10 R&B, and they had another hit called "It's Forever" in 1973, which was pretty much one of their greatest songs, which is number 14 R&B. After Philadelphia International went out, they ended up signing with Buddha Records, where they released one album, and their final hit, "Making Love Ain't No Fun Without the One You Love." That sounds like a word. Anyway, released on Philadelphia International Records, of course, also a Gamble and Huff business. Started in 1971. Distributed by CBS, at the time held by Mr. Clive Davis of music executive fame. Sexy Ways right there. The Ebonies. Oh, we have only two more left. We are zooming on past. And our 10 plus bonus one of records that we've pulled out of Mommy's pocketbook. If you're just tuning on, we'll look into what the youth and young adults of the 60s, 70s, and 80s were listening to, at least according to my mommy. We're getting into our 10th. Usually our last, but we have a bonus one today. This one is coming from Gwen McCrae. We have had the husband on here, of course, before. In case you didn't know who the husband was, that is Mr. George McCrae from Rock Your Baby fame. We're going to get into Gwen McCrae, though. First, Southern Soul Diva with a particular affinity for dance tracks, because she got bangers for your for your mind, your body, and your soul. Along with her husband, George, Rock Your Baby fame that I just talked about. They were a part of the Miami-based TK Records stable. TK Records, of course, was Henry Stone's record label that he founded. He named the the record label TK after Terry Keane, who built his state-of-the-art 8-track studio for him. They began performing in local clubs as teenagers. She began performing in local clubs as a teenager and also singing with local groups like the Lafayettes and the Independents. And in 1963, she met George McCrae, who tried to get her to join the group that he sang with called the Jivin' Jets. But instead, they ended up splitting off to become a duo on their own. And they moved to West Palm Beach, started performing in clubs all over South Florida. And then they were discovered by Betty Wright in 1967, who helped them get signed to Henry Stone's Alston label. And they debuted in 1969. They were also, during this time, stellar session vocalists. So they were doing vocals on all sorts of artists' tracks. In 1970, one of her solo recordings of Bobby Blue Bland's Lead Me On was picked up by Columbia, and it became her first top 40 hit on the R&B charts. And then that's when George temporarily retired from singing to become her manager. And then Alston leased her contract to Columbia. Not much chart success over there, so Columbia didn't renew that contract. But, however, she was able to sign to TK, again, Henry Stone, TK's label, Cat, which is what this is released on. Boom, boom. Oops. You have it upside down? Cat. I think I still have it upside down. There you go. Cat. Cat Records. And that's when you get the banger that we are about to let you listen to, which is called Rockin' Chair. Now you know it. It's Gwen McCrae, Rocking Chair.
Sexy baby, good loving daddy. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Just rock me away from there. Let's get it on. Come to me, baby. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Just rock me away from here. Let your arms shelter me from all hurt and pain. Light my heart with your everlasting flame. Sexy baby, good loving daddy. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Rock me away from here. Let's get it on. Come to me, baby. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Just rock me away from here. Rock me gently. Make me feel like a cloud in the sky. Whisper softly. Let my heart take wing and fly. Sexy baby, ooh, good loving daddy. Let me be your rocking chair. Just rock me away from here. Let's get it on. Come to me, honey. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Just rock me away from here.
Yes. Oh my God.
Just rock me, baby.
You know that. The root of danger. Danger. So many samples came from here. Gwen McCrae, Rocking Chair. And George McCrae is singing in the background. Ow. I don't think I mentioned it. In 1975, this peaked at number 9 on the pop charts. Also was simultaneously number 1 on the R&B charts for a week, baby.
In my rocking chair, all night long. Come on, baby, sexy baby. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair. Just rock me away from here. Come on, baby, sexy honey. Ooh, let me be your rocking chair.
Also, that was co-written by Willie Clark and Clarence Reed. Clarence Reed was a singer-songwriter, soul singer-songwriter, and somewhat of a rapper, and producer and arranger. He started playing in bands, his own band called the Delmiras or Delmiras, depending on how you came upon it. Out in Florida, he wrote for a whole bunch of R&B acts in the 60s and 70s. And if you don't know, he has another alter ego he goes by, Blowfly. If you ever heard of Blowfly, check out Blowfly. If you've never heard of Blowfly, check out Blowfly. I'm talking about, but parental guidance, because Blowfly is X-rated, to put it nicely. This is It Keeps On Raining, which is also written by Clarence Reed. So he's quite talented, because he can be, whoo. You just have to check out Blowfly. Blowfly is, if you thought that Two Live Crew challenged the system, Blowfly was challenging the system way before then. But I guess because it wasn't widely accessible, it was under the radar. But whoo, if you talk about blushing, listen to some Blowfly, a.k.a. Clarence Reed, the writer of this song, It Keeps On Raining. This is Gwen McCrae.
But look, it's still raining, raining, raining. He said by now, cloudy skies will be far away. But it's still raining, yes it is. And I lost your love. that I'm shedding, honey. Lord, it wouldn't be right. The weather been dry. Lord, the little could he do. He couldn't stop the rain from falling. Tell me, what am I gonna do? I wonder why it always seems to rain. Lord, when my man's gone, oh,
It keeps on raining.
when he's gone.
By Gwen McCrae, written by Clarence Reed. This is released on Cat, the subsidiary of Henry Stone's TK label, active from 1971 to 1980. Of course, in 1980, after Cat was no longer an option, she moved to Jersey and got on Atlantic and gave you another banger, which still puts people on the dance floor to this day. If you're a dancing diva, you know, can you feel it? Motherfucking sensation. Yes, that is Gwen McCrae. Also, get into it. Also, that was our 10th. Usually our final, but we got one bonus today. Our 11th is coming from a homeboy, a hometown homeboy. His name is Marvin Gaye, soul singer from D.C. You know, he was born Marvin Gaye, G-A-Y. He added the E later on in life, so it wasn't always G-A-E. G-A-Y-E. It was originally G-A-E. Just FYI. He joined a vocal group called the Moonglows in the late 1950s, doo-wop group. Soon, he impressed the group's founder, Harvey Fuqua. You heard that name before. And both of them ended up coming to the attention of Mr. Berry Gordy Jr. You know where he's from, Motown. And they were signed to Motown, i.e., this release is from Tamla Records. And if you know anything about Motown, you know the foundation of Motown was Tamla. That was the first record label that Berry Gordy founded on January 12, 1959. He founded Motown later in that year, and then when he incorporated in the following year of 1960, he decided to make Motown the parent company. So that is how that goes. So the first hit came from Mr. Marvin Gaye in 1962, but in his early years at Motown, he was kind of a behind-the-scenes dude, doing drums for Motown legends like Supremes, Little Stevie Wonder, the Marvelettes, Martha and the Vandellas. And then in 1962, he broke into the top 40 charts with Hitchhike, which was a number 30 pop hit for him and a number 22 R&B hit for him. So let's get into, we're going to do the B-side first. It's called I Wish It Would Rain, which is a Barrett Strong, Norman Whitfield, and Robert Penzabene track. I Wish It Would Rain, Marvin Gaye.
Oh, sunshine, blue sky, please go away. My girl found another and gone away. Oh, with my future, and my life is filled with blue. So day after day, I stay locked up in my room. I know to you, it might sound strange, but it would rain. Wish it would rain.
So yes, I Wish It Would Rain. Yes, this is that I Wish It Would Rain. That was a number 4 hit and number 1 hit simultaneously for 3 weeks for the Temptations back in 1968. Written by Barrett Strong, singer-songwriter, first artist to record a record for Motown Records, who's best known for writing with Norman Whitfield, who was a co-writer on this particular song. He's also co-writer for our Heard Through the Grapevine, Papa Was a Rolling Stone, War, and he was inducted into the Songwriters Hall of Fame in 2008. Norman Whitfield, of course, partner often with Barrett Strong, best known for his work with Motown, and credited as being one of the creators for Motown sound. as well as a late 60s subgenre of psychedelic soul, and Roger Penzabene, soul songwriter who worked at Motown. And the one to let me know that I'm trying, and I go outside to the world outside the tears. I refuse to explain just what would remain. Come on, baby. Oh, no. Baby. Oh, rain. Come on, rain. Oh, wish it would rain. And now we come to our last song of the episode 35 of Mommy's Pocketbook. There will be 37 episodes the next week, and number 36, and the week after that, number 37, as there are only 22 records left to play. So I'll play 11 next week, 10 in a bonus, and 11 the week after, 10 in a bonus. And then who have to say about Mommy's Pocketbook? Unless you go over to YouTube and watch all the episodes, which will be available on the Kane Dizzle channel. The last one, you know it, you love it, you like it, you love it, you want more of it. Always, to this day, it is a mood maker of Marvin Gaye, and you will know him for even much more. Can I Get a Witness, number 22 in 1963, with the Supremes on the background vocals from that one. 1964's How Sweet It Is to Be Loved by You. Number 6, number 67, 1967, you had duets hitting on the charts with Kim Weston at number 14 for It Takes Two. And also at number 19, Tammy Terrell duet, Ain't No Mountain High Enough. So Marvin Gaye had bangers off the yin yang. And another shout out, he's a DC homeboy. Always got to shout out people from the hometown. And also 1971, classic to this day, it is used for, mood for social injustice and everything. What's Going On, which peaked at number 2, stayed there for 3 weeks on the pop charts in 1971. Also, number 1 on the R&B charts for 5 weeks. That was What's Going On. We're about to listen to 1970. We're about to listen to. I'm tripping. We're about to listen to. I didn't get the hit for this one, so let me get it real quick. But we're about to listen to one of the super bangers that I told you is a mood maker, and it was number 1 in 1973 on the pop charts for 2 weeks in a row. At the same time, it was number 1 on the R&B charts for 6 weeks in a row. Classic mood maker. It is Marvin Gaye, Ed Townsend written. Let's get it on. I've been really trying, baby, trying to hold back this feeling for so long. And if you feel like I feel, baby, then come on. Oh, come on. Woo! Let's get it on. Let's get it on. Let's love, baby. Let's get it on. Sugar, let's get it on. Ooh, we're all sensitive people with so much to give. Understand me, sugar. Since we got to be here, let's live. I love you. There's nothing wrong with me loving you, baby, no. And giving yourself to me can never be wrong. If the love is true, oh, baby. Don't you know how sweet and wonderful life can be? Ooh, I'm asking you, baby, to get it on with me. Ooh, like I said, let me remind you again about our homeboy from DC. 1973, it was on the charts for 17 weeks and peaked at number 1 for 2 of those weeks in a row, and number 1 on the R&B charts also for 6 weeks. This was written by Ed Townsend, singer-songwriter renowned for his 1958 hit "For Your Love" and a string of hits a string of other hits that he wrote. He wrote also 3 other songs on Marvin Gaye's "Let's Get It On" album. And he's the father of David Townsend, who's of the group Surface. Only you can make me happy. Yes, that Surface. Released on Tamla, the original foundation of Motown Records, founded by Berry Gordy Jr. on January 12, 1959. Motown was founded later in the year, and then when they were incorporated in 1960, Berry Gordy Jr. decided to make Motown the parent company, but Tamla was the home of the soul and the grooves originally. Now, if you look for any more reprints, remasters, reissues, or credit, or rights, you're gonna have to holler at Universal Music Group, baby. And that was our last song of episode 35 of Mommy's Pocketbook. Thank you for tuning in. Soul Taker 73, always a pleasure. You're always up in the building, and appreciate you for that. Again, if you tuned in late, you missed half of it, or you happened upon this video on Twitch and it is heavily edited, you can always go over to YouTube, as this will be on there on the Kane Dizzle page. KANEDIZZLE. Outside of that, I will see you guys next time. Peace. Thank you for tuning in.